Hello everyone and welcome. In this exercise we'll go over two questions and it's on if statements. We'll see how we can use if statements to answer these two questions. The second question is relatively simple and the first question is a bit challenging, and what we'll do is start with this second exercise. So the question says, ask a user to input a number and check if the number the user enters is a negative number, 0, or a positive number. So this is a simple exercise. It's a simple, we can check for three conditions. One way to do it is if we can define a number, and then if that number is positive, let's do that. We have our number, and then we can set it to be equal to, we'll be asking a user to input a number, so we'll be prompting that user. We can say raw input, then please enter a number. Then we need to convert this into an integer, so we'll cast it to an integer. Again, if you are using Python 3, use the function input instead of raw input. And once the user enters a number, we can check if, one way is if number is greater than 0, we can say print number is 0, number is positive, and then I'm showing you the simple way first. Then we only have three conditions: if it's positive, 0, or negative. Elif number is equal to 0, print 0, and the last condition is else. Print negative. So that's a simple way of answering this question. Please enter a number 3, so that should be positive. Please enter a number negative 2, so that's a negative, and the last one is 0, so we have a 0. So that's the simple way, and I'll show you how to do that using a nested if statement. Still a simple way, but I'll show you using a nested if statement. So we have our number to integer, and then we have raw input, please enter number, and then we have our if statement. So if number, we can say if number is greater than 0, we can say, and then within that we'll have, so first we'll have two conditions: if number is greater than 0, and then we'll have an else statement. Print, let's say negative, number will be negative, and if the number is, instead of greater than 0, let's make it greater than or equal to 0, and then we can check, within that we can check if the number is equal to 0. Good. And then we can make it, we can use an else statement. Then we'll have an else statement. So this is the general layout of our nested if statement. So if number is greater than or equal to 0, check the following conditions. If number is equal to 0, print number is 0, and then else, we have our else condition. Print number is positive. So that's the other way of answering the question using nested if statement. So if we run this, it says please enter a number. Let's enter a positive number. Okay, number is positive. Please enter a number. Let's say -9. Number is negative. And finally we enter 0. We have number is 0. Great. Let's move on to our next question. It says use a for loop together with if statement to check the grade of students and what they scored. So we have a list of score. We have a list of scores. And then what we'll do is we'll use a nested if statement to see if a student passed or failed and whether they got A plus, B, C, or D. And we'll do that by combining a nested if statement with a for loop. Great. Let's get started. So I'll start by creating a list containing the student grades. So let me copy this. So I'll create a list of all my scores, my student scores. Let's do that. Okay, Command V. And I'll store it in a variable called, let's say, student scores. And this is a list. What I'll do next is I'll have a for loop that will go through this list and then print out each individual grade or score. And then for each individual score, we'll have an if statement to check the grade. Let's do that. Okay. So we have for, let's say, grade in student scores. We can say print the grade of the student is, and then plus the grade, plus the grade. So right now this is a string, whereas grade is integer. If you see here, this is an integer. These are all integers. So we need to cast this into integer. So I'll cast the grade to integer. Right now, if I execute the statement, I'll get each individual score will be printed. So 98, 92, 85, and so on. Let me run it and show you. Cannot concatenate string and integer objects. Oh, so let me change this to, sorry. So since this is a string, I will cast grade into a string because we cannot add string and integer objects. So we'll cast this into a string. Let's run it again. So we have the grade of the student is 98, and then we have the grade of the student is. So it goes through each grade in our list and then prints the grade. Great. Now what we'll do is we'll have a nested if statement to check if the student got an A, a B, a C, and so on. Let's get started. So we'll do all of that within our for loop. So let's start. We can say if grade is greater than or equal to 60, we can print student has passed, or simply passed. We can say passed with a passing grade, and then otherwise the other option is what? Else print student has failed. So that's our if and else statement. If grade is above 60 or above, student has passed, else student has failed. Now within my passing grade, we'll have some nested if statements to check if the student scored A, B, C, and so on. So we can say if grade is greater than or equal to 90, print passed with A. Elif grade is greater than or equal to 80, student passed with a B. So print passed with a B. Elif grade is greater than or equal to 70. This will be print passed with a C. Okay, so far it's good. And then the last statement is else print passed with a D. Okay, so far we have taken care of that also. Now let's run our code here. So in this case, we'll have for each grade. So when grade is 98, first it will print the statement. So it will say grade of the student is 98, and then it will go through this if statement. If grade is greater than or equal to 60, it will print passed with a passing grade. Good. And then it will go, since 98 is greater than 60, it will go through this nested if statement, and it will execute the first statement. So the grade will be printed, and then passed with a passing grade, and then passed with A. That's just for 98. And all of those, the same thing will be executed for each of the grades in our student scores list. Let's run it. Okay, the first one is the grade of the student is 98, passed with a passing grade, passed with A. And then the grade of the student is 92. So for each grade, it does that check. When it's 55, student has failed, so still good. When it's 81, passed with a B, a D, a C, a B, A. So we have a grade representative of each score. Okay. Other thing we can do is let's indent some of this. So I'll indent this once, couple of times. Let's indent this also. Okay. So that it's easier to read. Let's run it again. So the first one, when the grade is 98, passed with a passing grade, passed with A, and so on. And again, we can also have used /t for tab. Let's use that. /t backward slash. This is just to make it more readable. Let's run it. Okay, much more readable, right? Next, we'll go through each of this grade and then see if the student scored A or A+. And you can do for the remaining ones. I'll just show you for A only. Let's have some nested if statements. Within our nest, we can say if grade is greater than or equal to 97, let's say print past, let's say grade is A plus, and then let's have two tabs /t/t so that we can read it much easily. Okay, Elif grade is greater than or equal to, let's say 93. We can say print grade is higher A minus, or whatever you want, and then we'll /t/t tab, and let's conclude this. Else print, okay, we'll tab twice, grade is A minus. Okay, let's run it now. So when grade is 98, the student passed with a passing grade, passed with A, grade is A plus, right? Let me indent this back. I think that should be okay. And then this last part, /t there. I think everything else looks good. Okay, the grade of the student is 98, passed with a passing grade, and then passed with A, grade is A plus. The grade of the student is 92, passed with a passing grade, passed with A, grade is A minus. So I just did it for A plus, A minus, and you can do the same thing for each individual grades. You can divide the B's into B minus, B plus, and so on. Okay, another thing we could have done is we can distinguish each of this by adding an additional print statement. Let me show you what I mean. So I'll simply add another print statement here, say print, just so that it's more readable, nothing fancy, and then print, add a line here, then same thing here. This is just to distinguish each grade. If I run it again, it looks much nicer, right? So the grade of the student is 98, passed with a 98, and then we have, so this is one grade, one score, or grade, another score, and so on. We can do that too. We can copy this and apply it for when grade is a B. So the same situation is true. So if grade is greater than or equal to, let's make this 87, and then grade is B plus, and then when it's greater than or equal to 83, the grade is a higher B minus, and for any other condition we'll make the grade B minus. So that looks good. To have more representative numbers, we have 85. Let's add one more. Let's say 89. Okay, run it again. So when grade is 85, passed with a passing grade, and then passed with a B, grade is higher B minus. When it's 89, grade is B plus. So you can do the same thing when the grade is C. You can add the same thing so that you can see C plus, C minus, and so on. So this is how we can use a for loop together with an if statement to check each individual grade, First, we are printing the grade, and then for each grade, we are going through our if statement to check if the student passed or failed, and if they passed, what they got for their result. Great. That's all I have for this exercise. Thank you everyone, and I'll see you at the next lecture.